Hello, we are live once again. Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Next.io weekly news live broadcast with me, Conor Mulhare, my partner in crime, as always, the one and only Nico Jansen, and we are joined today by a very special guest, of course, the founder of Yggdrasil and
Where is he? Where's that
and
guy?
executive chairman of ParlayBay, Fred Elmqvist. Fred, welcome to
All
the
right, nice to be here.
show.
Nice to be here. Nice to see you guys. Good energy.
Good to see you. Nico, how's things?
I'm awesome. Things are good. I'm in Salzburg, so things are great. I needed to close the curtains as sun is shining. It's awesome weather, so I'm kissed by the Lord above, and we are so happy to have one of the shining stars with a
Coming
comeback.
later. Coming
No, it's
later.
you. It's you. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about your twin brother. We're talking about you and you only. The man, the myth, the legend.
Oh dear. Expectations went to the roof here. Let's see if I can, how I can handle that. All right. Nice to be here. Nice to see you guys. It's the first time.
Yeah, you're very welcome
I
here
have the
on the
pleasure.
stream. Let me say hello to Bogdan, to iGaming Alliance, and to Mercy in the comments. Make sure you keep that conversation going on LinkedIn or
Hi,
YouTube.
Bogdan.
You are watching. We've got a big week ahead of us, a big episode ahead of us today. We've got lots to discuss. Of course, we will be talking in a while about the biggest gambling sector story of the week and probably the biggest gambling sector story of 2024 so far, which is, of course, FDJ's proposed acquisition of Kindred Group. But first, we have
Yeah.
equally
Even more important.
even more important story because last week ParlayBay, your company, Fred, announced a new funding round worth €3.5 million, and we're going to talk to you today about the process of seeking that funding, what it was like, how the experience was, and see if you've got any advice for other entrepreneurs in the sector looking for funding at the moment. But why don't you start us off with a little bit of background? Tell us what's ParlayBay, who's involved, and what kind of stage are you at the moment?
Sure. All right. I can do that. So ParlayBay is in brief, it's a sports betting provider focusing on in-play micro markets. That's kind of the short story. And we also have another little angle. It's a more immersive user experience. So we don't only provide like the API and let the customer build it themselves. We kind of go all the way in. So we have a lobby where we have a more like a Netflix approach with thumbnails and so forth, and how we present it to the players, and other things, but more like the UX. We kind of game design approach to sports betting to try and break the stalemate of that matrix thing that is maybe the modern player is not so interested in. So that is kind of in brief what ParlayBay is. Um, and I think the questions I get is like, what have you done? Where are you today? And you can just say we are like 15 people. Two senior hires are coming. One that just started, Paulo Gassé, as we announced the other day, and more. We are kind of live integration 7, and I think 5 more is pending integration. Live in 20 brands, predominantly Asia today. Yeah, and good people in. We've been live for some time, so the technology works and it scales. So that's always good. So now we're going to use the money to ramp up the business, basically.
Nice. Well, I think we'll get on to your plans for the new cash in just a few moments. But first of all,
Sure.
can we talk a little bit about what that process was like of securing funding? I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur in this sector and you've done it many times before. What was the experience like this time?
Well, I'd say it was slightly different for certain reasons. When we founded Yggdrasil, it was more like a joint partnership from the beginning with Cherry. So they brought the money, I brought the know-how, and so it was like a matchmaking more than anything else. It was not really the fun, and we only took in one round and then we paid off the loan. So we generated cash there fairly quickly, to be honest, within 9 months. And here we have been kind of funding it. The cap table is 10 people, investors from the industry, so no institutional. So it was natural for us to kind of just widen the circle. So we went to the network, and within that network, yes, we did go in front of some institutional investors, but they were predominantly looking for numbers, and we were selling the product and the team. So we needed people that understood the product and the value proposition. So there was more natural for us to take people from the ecosystem. So the people that are investing now, which are expanding the cap table, are new investors. They're also business partners in other businesses that we have. So they know us historically as a provider. So they kind of trust us, who's in the group. So it's a leap of faith. It's a decent chunk of money that they're spending, but they knew us, so we had a kind of a track record with them. So so it was. I wouldn't say it's never a smooth process until it's done, right? Before it's done, anything can happen. But we felt it was important for us that we went to people in our ecosystem, more strategic investors in that sense, then go to the guys who are, the big funds, because they're just looking for numbers, saying, come back to me when you have numbers. Now we're starting to see numbers. So when we started the process was like in March last year. So, the macro wasn't perfect either, right? So, but I would say the financial and institutional investors, they were more macro, had more macro problems than the ones with the inside ecosystem.
Yeah. And with those economic conditions prevailing, high interest rates and the high cost of capital generally, what did the individual investors kind of tell you they were looking for? I mean, it's obviously a very product-led discussion, I guess.
Yeah. Now they were looking for investments in the sector. And they were looking for something that was investable, something that, and it's not easy to get this kind of money when you're this early. So they were also predominantly looking for something that they trusted from affiliated businesses. So I think that the performance over the years in the various business constellations that I've been involved in, and the business partners I have in other types of in other companies, in other ventures, lead to the opportunity to do this. If I hadn't done the other stuff, this wouldn't have been possible. That's for sure. That's for sure.
If you think about, obviously, your experience and your past business experiences have impacted this latest round massively. What would you say to entrepreneurs who are perhaps a bit newer to the sector or who haven't got that long experience that you've got? Do you think there's still scope for them to secure investment from similar investors?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I will always say, try to avoid external investors as much as possible. If you can grind, if you can pivot, if you can sell to some customer beforehand, pre-royalty, if you can do something like that to take it to a point where they might come to you anyway, that's fine. But to go out and try and grind and looking for institutional investors when early is pretty, I wouldn't say waste of time, but it's a very much of uphill struggle, especially in the current macros, especially now. So I would, but I'm still pro start new stuff even if the times are tough. There's always people who want to invest that are looking for new things. Because if you have capital, and you like the industry, you know what you can bring to the table. You're looking for the next thing that you can invest in. So, but look within your network and within your ecosystem of your product, because if they are going to be your customers, they can almost likely be investors, one way or the other.
Yeah. Nico, before we move on to ParlayBay's plans for the future and how it's going to spend this money, do you have any more questions for Fred about this investment process?
Yeah, especially as soon as we take a look at the overall money you actually raised, it just seems like you just brought a quite exclusive, funky bunch of investors just to the cap table. So it seems like you've been in the driver's seats, like, okay, we are looking for X amount of money. And you also brought one thing to the table, especially if you onboard like institutional investors, because then it's all about the dilemma, the trade-off of the evaluation of the company and how much you actually want to give away. So you just need to balance these two things. So have you been happy with the overall process now with your network, as soon as it comes to the evaluation of your company and how much of the equity you actually gave away?
I'm not going to disclose exactly how much, but I will say it was a decent markup from 1 year ago. So we did it 1 year ago, so which means the previous investors that went in there are very happy to see their current investment have grown. That I can say.
Okay, and have you specifically looking for the 3.5 million, or did you just, go with the flow and you're like, okay, so we're looking for 2.5, but as of now, the evaluation of the company is so good and it's matching our expectations so that we're, taking the extra money?
It's a very good question. I would say it was a discussion also around how much. Some investors are not interested in taking 10. They say they want to have 25 or 20 at minimum, or sometimes 15, depends. So we knew that we have to give them decent chunk. So you might say that we have taken in excessive money, but I'd rather have excessive capital than not. I rather have. So I'm very happy with to see the value creation just in the past year. So great work for the team that has been working as well. And I think the previous shareholders are pretty happy to see this development as well, especially securing this money from a strategic investor that's going to go live. These people are going to go live with the project as well, with certain customization. So we're there also with customers. So no, I'm very happy with it. I'm super happy. Everyone is happy. So there's a lot of expectations.
Nice. And what about your individual role within this process as executive chairman? You obviously have a lot of responsibility. Did you take on the investment seeking by yourself?
No. So we didn't use an external advisory. We have a team of very senior, some corporate finance guys that has been basically driving this process. Even talked to institutional investors, did all the forecast, all of that professionally. But we did like an internal work. So hat off to Nelson and Nordvall for their job in this. So the Patrick, the double Pats, they run that. So my role was predominantly the product, the packaging, what are we saying, and also bringing in the business partners from other businesses to be in front of this and happily joining on board as investors as well. So, but hat off to Nelson and Nordvall. They've been driving this like an in-house advisory firm. So we saved a bit little money there.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And what about moving forward now? You've got this money secured. Where's it going to go? And how much of that are you going to be deciding what goes where and what it's spent on?
Oh, pretty decided what areas we're going to spend on, right? We're doing a couple of more senior hires in product and in CIO. You saw Paolo Gassei is joining with his great track record from the industry, and then we're going to keep on expanding on the product. So we are adding more sports, build more models, more markets. We are also pivoting in towards Europe. So we are probably going to pick up a license in Europe and start that traction as well. So more product development is going to happen. You're going to see more of that coming. So we need a bigger shop basically. Currently, it's not a full shop. We see already some KPIs. We get traction in. We get traffic. We need to have more things to sell and more stuff to do in there when we get the traffic. So we get already some traffic. So it's pretty clear what we're going to do.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that your client base is primarily in Asia at the moment. So what does this pivot towards Europe look like for you? What's the strategy if we think 1 year, 3 years, 5 years into the future? What's the strategy and what's the timeline like?
Well, we of course want to tap in a bit to the crypto. It's mandatory to get some business, so we need to tap in a bit more to crypto. So there's some ongoing discussions there, of course. And then to the regular the big European market. So we're going to go for the remote license, and we're going to go for getting into certain other. Who's writing here?
Bogdan's left you a
Yeah.
nice long message.
Yeah. Thanks, Bogdan. Bogdan, you disrupted my brain, my thoughts here, so I got a brain freeze. Yeah, developing product. I think that's where we are, right? More product development. Strategy. Europe, we said crypto, Europe, remote licenses, but mostly as well expanding on the product. The thing is, we noticed that when we come with our in-play and micro offering, we get a lot of business. We've come with holding back on sales, so it's easy to sell the product. We just make sure it generates more money. And that is more sports, more markets, more models, more formats, as we say, and basically more bettable items in the shop.
Yeah.
And
for any of our viewers who don't know, which products are you working in terms of markets and sports? What have you got on the list at the moment, and what are you looking to expand into?
Well, I would say this is a bit fun for me, right? But so football first, okay? So football first. This is what we had there, and then we're gonna add other. We added cricket because we got that as a requirement from some of the Indian or Dafa, Mansion and Indibet and these guys. So we added cricket, and all of a sudden, cricket is generating quite substantial growth just in the last quarter. So virtual cricket, real cricket, bet by ball stuff, and so cricket has become one of my favorite sports all of a sudden. I didn't know anything about cricket before, but now you know a bit more about it. So it's fun. But we're gonna add more stuff now. That's what we're doing. More tennis, basketball is coming as well, ice hockey. I mean, someone was saying we need to do power slap, so we probably have to look in. I just had a discussion with the CIO and said, guys, we need to do power slap. That seems to be something people are wondering about. So okay, why not?
I don't know what that is. Nico, power slap, is that a familiar one for you?
It's literally when you hold one and then you slap the other guy, and you see who falls over first.
Exactly. So that has been my thought as well. So just jumping on the cricket topic. So just roughly 1.5 years ago, there had been a fake league during the COVID times in India or Russia. No, in India had been set up. So was this some kind of interesting little wink why you actually hopped into the cricket thing, or okay?
No, it was literally one of the first customers that said, guys, we love this, can you do it ball by ball for cricket? Then you have a deal. Now we take the rest. And we said, can we source it, can we find it? And we worked with Decimal Odds for that one, and we delivered I think it's a fairly unique cricket product, which is ball by ball. So if you're going to look, and we also have a virtual which has shorter markets. So we see now that with the cricket offering, we're now tapping into the non-traditional cricket markets. Not just India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. And we tap into other previously, but it's what I thought was cricket markets. I think that's predominantly with a virtual product, but there was nothing else, not around any fake leagues or whatever. So
okay. And
we
just to
haven't
answer
been live for that long, so I can't even say what was going on in cricket 1.5 years ago. I have no idea.
Yeah, so it was in July 2022 when they hired actually actors to fake a cricket match, and they faked the whole league. So Bogdan, it wasn't table tennis, it was cricket in July 2022. So that
why
just
don't they cricket players?
rang a bell.
Why? I think actors probably more expensive than cricket players. Why don't just run the league? Anyway, what do I know?
Yeah, but interesting. Just getting one step back. So if you just take a look at the overall, starting the looking for investment, which you already stated, which you started in March last year, and then until things had been safe and sealed, took you nearly like 9 months. So from the complexity of the overall talks and negotiations. Are there any kind of keywords like the preferred shares, the common shares, liquidation preferences, which ring a bell at the investment you now offered, or was it a pretty simple investment from your point of view?
Pretty simple. We didn't, since we also had existing shareholders, we need to secure their interest. So that's always a balancing act that you need to secure the existing shareholders' rights here. So I'm not a really big fan of those kind of too complex deals. It ends up in the end always confusing or aggravating someone. So we want to have like a solid, straightforward. Anyone asks about it internally, of course, the existing shareholders were actually following the process as well. So we drove a pretty transparent. And again, one of the shareholders in the company, existing ones, is of course involved in one of the other entities that I am involved in, and there these guys are business partners there as well. So it was pretty straightforward, and we need to go transparent. It couldn't be. We are dealings here. That's
Okay.
not how we run.
Nice. So obviously you're still at that early stage with ParlayBay, just starting to take off. But what would you say are your ambitions for the brand moving forwards? Do you want it to be integrated into every major operator in Europe? Will you start looking at North America one day? I mean, what's the big picture plan?
Well, big picture plan is to become use in-play micro as our way in with unique experiences, and we believe that we're not going to replace anyone. We go on top. So whatever you have, we say perfect, keep that. We're just going to go on top. We're just going to give a new experience for additional players. We come with promotional tools, another way of working that. So that's going to be that's kind of our strategy. That is our strategy already. So whatever sportsbook they have, I mean, in some of the cases we do actually completely embedded. So this is what we're launching now with the first customers soon. Where we are in the middle of what you see Tottenham, Liverpool, and there we have our exposure, certain, a bit like at the checkout or so. We need to be where the traffic is as well, not just having the lobby. So that is one of the things in our go-to-market strategy, which means we want to go for, if you're just a casino and looking for a kind of a less complex sports betting offering, we can do that. If you are, like DOFA has a multitude of products already, we can be an add-on in there, and we fight for our traffic inside that kind of a hypermarket, let's say someone like DOFA or whoever.
Yeah,
that is so we want to be giving great niche experiences to the players, but we want to get it across everyone.
Yeah. And what would be the benefit to, let's say, a traditional sportsbook operator? Is it all about increasing player acquisition and retention, increasing betting volume, or is there also an improved margin for the operator on these micro markets compared to traditional?
You want to come and work? You're saying the right things here. So you have the right pitch. No, absolutely right. It's a great acquisition tool because it's a novelty. You don't need to sell it with the bonuses because it's something new, right? And so that's good. And then of course, yes, there is potential for higher margins when it's done correctly, and higher turnover because you're turning it over much quicker because you're settling if it's 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on what kind of micro market it is. Mm-hmm. So. And it gives you different experience. So it's a retention tool in that sense as well for the operator.
Yeah. And is that based on how you like to bet? I like to take the long term usually. Usually I put a bet on like 0-0 and then sit and wait for the cash out to go up. And if it goes up, I'll just cash out. That's my style.
But keep in mind that you know, coming from the slot side, and that how that's been going through evolution, you know, in terms of people say nothing has happened. Well, it does have changed quite a lot in the past 10 years, and we kind of want to take that into sports betting because there's a similar dopamine stuff happening there as there. So we wanted to come with game design principles into sports betting and marketing principles that's also similar to in casino here. That's why we come with these promotional tools, price drops, and all of that's never heard of in sports betting in the same sense.
Yeah.
And we revolutionized the slots industry when we did that at YGG. At Yggdrasil, we were the first doing in-game promo tools, and that set that company off the charts. So now we're going to do the same thing here. So we see people. So what we see is we see people spend a lot more time in the app. So they spend 8-9 minutes in the app when they load, not just in the lobby, but they load the games. It's quite a lot, and the retention is pretty high. The retention now is pretty high.
So based on actual regulations and regulations becoming more tighter, etc., especially in Germany and the UK, on the verge as well, do you see this more as a driving factor for you and your company and your approach, or do you see these as a stubborn factor from your perspective?
What I think is going to happen here, right? Some of the negotiations that we might have might say we sign with you only when you have this license and that license. That is the minimum requirement, and then we have to weigh: are we going to go after that opportunity or not? And I'm thinking currently it's a bit too early, but maybe in 6 months we do a remote regulation first, and then we see what we do next. I think we can't avoid it, and I don't think we shouldn't avoid it just because of saying being stubborn and say, hey, we don't like it. I think it's we have, if you're going to go for some of these other bigger regulated fish, well, we have no choice. But we're not doing them in the next quarter or in the next 6 months.
Yeah. Nice. Well, super interesting discussion today, guys. Nico, before we let Fred get back to his tennis, should we have any more questions before we say goodbye?
Sorry?
Do you have any more questions for Fred before we say goodbye, Nico? Come on, pay attention.
Pay attention. Yeah. No. All my questions had been answered during the overall conversation. I just had one question lined up. If you denied, or you actually denied some of your investors who had who wanted to give you some money, but I'm pretty sure as you had been in the driver's seat and you specifically approached people you actually either want to work with, as you mentioned, you will go live with a product, so it's a strategic investor. So that question had already been answered pretty much. So that had been my question, and thank you for sharing the insights as well. Awesome.
My pleasure, guys. My pleasure. Okay, good luck with the whole Kindred. I'm saying good luck to Kindred and good luck to my old buddies at Relax in this deal. So that's what I'm going to say, and then I leave you to it. Thank you very much, guys.
Enjoy. Thanks.
Bye.
Yes, you take
care.
Bye. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Coming close to me, flows on atomic, I'm starting fires through poetry. The heart's out, staying loyal, no falling out. And if you step into the court, be ready, we ballin' out, yeah. I just gotta go hard.
Well, there you have it, Nico. A fascinating discussion with Fred there. Lots to learn from that. A couple of little adverts because, if nobody's advertising, where's the fun? Do you know what I mean? But here we are. We're going to talk about our next story of the day. And it is, of course, the biggest acquisition story of 2024 so far. We are only 25 days into the year, and already we have a nearly €2.5 billion acquisition as La Française de Jeu from France puts in its bid for the one and only Swedish giant Kindred Group. So, Nico, what did you make of this deal?
Wait. First of all, hold your horses. We need to value the cliffhanger which we just experienced by Fred when he just literally jumped off our little talk. He was like, yeah, and now have fun with the Kindred story and my shout out to my boys and girls from Relax. The thing is, Connor, first of all, give respect when respect is due. What a legend. What a legend. Now the both, it's all up to us. No pressure at all with this kind of introduction, but just getting back to the point. First of all, I didn't anticipate this kind of move. Out of a sudden, it was like, okay, they are planning to give an offer, and then literally 2.5 hours later, the Kindred board already accepted the offer. I was like, okay, there's something in between. Like, okay, we plan to give an offer, then you actually give an offer. This offer is accepted, like, okay, received, and then you kind of discuss it. It was like, okay, there are some milestones actually missing. And I would consider myself as a pretty good informed guy in our awesome gambling industry. It was a move I didn't anticipate. When we did the Connor, when we did the okay, so what are your expectations for 2024? And then it was okay, within the next 2 weeks, we will see a multi-billion euro takeover, which nobody expected. Boom, there you go. It was awesome.
Yeah, if anybody could have said that in their predictions, I would have been very impressed, I must say. But I think one of the key elements here, you say it all happened so quickly. Well, how much work was being done here in the background? Because straight away when FDJ announced their bid, they said that the five massive institutional investors in Kindred, so Corvex Management, Premier Investment, Eminence Capital, Veralda Investment, and Nordea Bank, representing 27.9% of the company's shareholdings, had all agreed to the deal. So I think that was a big contributing factor. And it's maybe the biggest move we've seen after all this talk of activist investors over the last few months. So investors are starting to make their voices heard more and more loudly. So super interesting case here. Just run through some of the numbers very quickly. So it's 130 Swedish krona per share, which is a 24% premium over the closing price on 19th of January, a 35% premium over the average price over the last 30 trading days. So I think it's a nice deal for Kindred shareholders. It helps them extract some of that value. I did look at Kindred share price over the last 5 years, though, and it used to trade. It previously traded as high as 160-ish krona, and now it's selling for 130 per share. So it's not the highest point of its valuation ever, but it's certainly well ahead of where the price has been for the past year or so. And I was reading some analysis about the deal, and I do think there's quite a lot of it's quite rational on both sides. As I said, it creates good value for Kindred shareholders, but also for FDJ. So it's a very large acquisition, but you have to bear in mind FDJ has a land-based betting monopoly and, of course, the lottery monopoly in France, which is a very large, very rich market. And they are generating something like, I think, 6 billion a year in revenue and 600 million in EBITDA. So relative to the amount of money that's going through FDJ's hands, it's not something that was unaffordable to them. And also, I think one of the key things, according to Paul Leyland at Regulus Partners, is that basically outside its land-based betting monopoly, basically FDJ has only got a very limited share of the competitive online market in France. So Regulus estimates that it's about 11%. And Kindred has about 12% of the French market share, I guess through Unibet, probably. And so combining those, we're looking at nearly a quarter of the market under a single operator. So it kind of catapults it straight into that number one position in the market. So when FDJ was thinking about a business to acquire in France, the other options could have been someone like Winamax, I think Paul said there, or who else was it? Somebody else. But basically, that would have made this company too big, would have taken their market share over 30%, would have started raising questions about competitiveness and all the rest of it. So actually, when you see those rationalizations for the deal, maybe it was a bit of a no-brainer. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, pretty much the same. And one tiny but quite significant information is it is an all-cash deal. So they have, as you already mentioned, like for sure not an empty war chest. So that's why they literally could, pay or will be about to pay the deal all cash with no additional strings attached. They're like, okay, there you go, Kindred. We will now take over your journey to zero and see how we will deal with it. And will be quite interesting if they will literally follow up on the overall kind of anticipated goals, which we discussed for quite a long time already. And of course, one thing comes to my mind, it's the journey to zero. And we will just see how this plays out.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to stand by that commitment following the acquisition. And also, the other thing to consider is Kindred's unregulated revenue, which is a relatively small portion of its revenue. I think it's about 17%. They've got a big presence, for example, in Norway, which has caused all kinds of legal problems in the past, as we've seen. So one of the impacts of the acquisition is that Kindred will pull out of the Norwegian market. It will operate exclusively now in regulated markets. So that seems to be about the only big change that's coming to Kindred that we know about so far. Everything else, it seems, will continue to operate independently. But certainly, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes next. Well, we kept it short and sweet on that one, Nico, I think. Fred, take the limelight for us for the first half an hour. Quick few minutes on Kindred. What more is there to say? I think that's pretty much all we have for today. Anything to add?
Yeah, just one more thing. So if we just take a look, so FDJ, their bread and butter business is the lotteries in France. Obviously, they now, diversify their portfolio with investing to Kindred. Maybe, and just maybe, we will see another move by an also a big company, Allwyn. They are now big in the UK, getting the lotteries in the UK, and maybe they will duplicate this move from FDJ as well. And we will probably by end of this year, we might be talking about same but different topic.
Yeah, you never know. And Bogdan always wants to put his thoughts in the comments, says that if he had to guess who's next in the acquisition spree, it's he's betting on Betson Group. So let's keep an eye on that. And Bogdan, if it turns out to be right, then you will get, of course, a round of applause on the next stream when Betson gets snapped up by somebody else. Well, Nico, let me say, as always, thank you for joining me, and thank you to everybody in the comments. I think that's just about all we have for you today. So do be sure to join us here, same place, same time next week. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
They ain't ain't coming close to me. Flows on atomic, I'm starting fires through poetry. The heart's out, staying loyal, no falling out. And if you step into the court, be ready, we balling out, yeah.